couldn't put my finger on it, but I just told Laura I'll never forget that moment where it's like, we got to do something different.
Yeah, so everyone thought we were nuts because we left the city. We didn't go far, but we were in the country. We had land and we were homeschooling, and it was just a 180. And then COVID hit, and then we had people calling us like, "Hey, how do you do this? What do you do? Do you have any eggs? Do you have all these things that all of a sudden we didn't look maybe as crazy? Still a little crazy, but not as crazy."
Welcome to the Stay at Work Home. We are here to question the prevailing assumptions about the meaning of life, work, and the purpose of people. Instead of being torn apart by our vocations, we want to be pulled together. Come along with us as we change our picture of the good life and pursue the home as God intended, one that worships through work together. Hi guys, welcome to the Stay at Work Home. I'm your host, Keith, with another interview from some people that I met not that long ago. But when we started talking, it was actually one of the most, effortless conversations that I've ever had. And it seemingly could have gone on forever, which it won't go on forever today, but it could go on for a while. So we're going to start rock and rolling. Today I have Greg and Laura Sweeton. They are the founders, owners, operators of Shepherd's Crook Coffee in
Fair Grove, Missouri.
Yeah.
Missouri, there we go. It's in Missouri. And we met at the Ozarks Homestead Festival back in, it feels like it was a year ago, but it was
September.
Just over a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about a month and a half ago. That's closing in on 2 months. Yeah, time flies.
Yeah.
So first, our kind of typical opening question I like to do is, who is your family and what do you do together?
All right. Well, I'm going to let you start. No, because
I
I told Laura I'm going to let her. She doesn't get to talk as much as I do, so I'm going to let her start. I'll fill in any gaps, but you go ahead.
Well, we are Greg and Laura. We have 2 kids, Anna and Isaiah. Almost 14-year-old boy, almost 16-year-old daughter. We homeschool, we homestead, and now we have a home-based business. So, what is this, year 4 of all of that sort of together? I think we've homesteaded 5 years.
Going on 5 years,
and then the business 4 years. So that's a story in and of itself.
Yeah, it's been a complete 180. So we're definitely still adjusting, but it's been great. But yeah, we probably look, if you knew us 5 years ago, I think we looked a lot different and probably were a lot different people. So.
Well, I mean, you had less gray in your beard, I guess.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
I don't even know that I had a beard. I never saw myself as a facial hair guy, but here I am.
You got a little bit right there.
Yeah.
It's graying in, starting.
I've got
But so, if I met you guys 20 years ago and I said, what would you think about homeschooling? What would you have said?
Honestly, we probably would have had the same concerns. We hear this, and I said I was going to let you talk.
No,
Do you want to start?
I
I think there's definitely a stigma there that I find that people repeat things they hear. And so maybe there's a certain stigma with homeschooling, for instance, that is, untrue and unfair. And so I don't think it was nowhere on our radar. Of course, that would have been 20 years ago. We would have been almost 5 years into being married. And
we were both public school. Of course, it looked a lot different in those days.
And that's really our whole life, was just kind of going with the flow, right? So
I don't think we would have thought about it, thought it necessary, or even thought it was an option, really, until we got till about second or third grade of our daughter in public school, and I started volunteering and just seeing what it was like. And
I think you could call it kind of a catch in our spirit. That was the point where we knew something just wasn't for us. We didn't know what that looked like. We certainly weren't thinking homeschool even at that point, but that was kind of a journey to that. So you can kind of tell how we got there if you want to.
Yeah, well, I started volunteering when she was in public school I would take my paid vacation days to volunteer.
And my mom too.
And Greg's mom, we would alternate days in her classroom, so someone was there every day because the class was 34
Off
kids,
the rails.
34 kids, one teacher, and maybe a volunteer or two. So quickly you realize that there was no learning going on. It was just behavior management, and even that was not happening. So I'm in the classroom seeing no learning, and it's all behavior management or lack thereof that also.
Line up for this, line
up for
that.
this, line up for that, pick up by the time they got their, selves in order, it was time to do something else. So yeah, we quickly realized we had to make a change, and that was second grade. So by third grade, we made a change and shifted to a private Christian school for our daughter. Our son stayed there because there wasn't room in that school for him. So we were straddling both worlds, and the private Christian school was better.
I'd call it's probably like a high quality public school with chapel.
Yeah.
I mean, not to be unkind, but that's kind of what it was.
Bring your Bible and do those things, but basically it was still public school.
I mean,
was it a matter that there was just less behavior management to do for them, and so they were able to do a little more educating?
Right. But the overall feel was still the same. Just wasn't quite what we wanted. We did that for 2 years, and then we shifted to a sort of a hybrid. So it was like a school that offered 2 days there and then 3 days at home. But you still followed everything they wanted you to do. And so for me, I looked at that. It was great. It was training wheels.
Well, at the time, this school was had become pretty popular, and they actually didn't have any seated spots in the enrollment. So we were actually doing it online. We were waiting kind of for a seated spot to open up. But in the meantime, we were doing it online.
And nothing was actually on the computer. We had access to the teachers online, and they gave us this, the things to do every day, read this, get this book. So it was like training wheels for me. And we did that for a year. And then I was like, oh, I can do this.
Well, and it was kind of about that same time, right? Kind of COVID, where people, I'd say we had gotten kind of a sneak peek or kind of had a, again, that catch in our spirit. And I think then a lot of people got to see kind of what was really going on.
So that was,
and so that was kind of everyone sort of, that would have been,
or 18 actually.
Yeah.
2018. And then we started full-time homeschooling ourselves, and just really realizing the freedom in that, and the ability to learn how your kids learn and help them learn what they need and want to learn, and really, just really dig in and grow closer together, and what that looks like. So at that point we had moved, and that's a whole other story, but we got out of the city, moved out to our first homestead, and that was our first full year of homeschooling on our own. And then, so that was 18 or 19, and then COVID, and everyone
19 kind of, actually 19, but kind of right before things
COVID
got,
So everyone thought we had lost our minds because we, 20 years married,
just a little ahead of the curve.
Right. Just a little,
well,
we just tried to listen to God, honestly. And
we had another, I would call it kind of that lightning bolt sort of catching the spirit moment, just not specifically about school, but just kind of about just life or lifestyle, if you want to use that term. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but I just told Laura, I'll never forget that moment where it's like, we got to do something different. And so that was kind of, the origins, I guess, of that. And anyway, so.
Yeah. So everyone thought we were nuts because we left the city, we didn't go far, but we were in the country. We had land, and we were homeschooling, and, it was just a 180. And then COVID hit, and then we had people calling us like, hey, how do you do this? What do you do? Do you have any eggs? Do you all these things that all of a sudden we didn't look maybe as crazy, still a little crazy, but not as crazy. So
I love the meme, or I guess it was a meme, whatever. It was a short video where the lady's like, guard your chickens, there's poor folks around, or whatever. It's I used to be poor, but now I got chickens.
Right. I know.
That was a thing for me. Oh, you want some eggs? Sure. $10 a dozen.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I know.
So The homeschool thing, especially in the COVID moment, seems to be like a big shift. But I think people are
Mhm.
already looking, and obviously there's a deeper philosophical and sociological thing going on, that people are looking for meaning and like trying to figure out why life isn't what they wanted it to be, and they're going to the country, or they're looking for a different lifestyle, different kind of work, and different kind of family. But then the COVID thing really accentuated it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
For you guys, you were already there, but and homeschooling seems to be a way that people are liberated to kind of try some things. But you
Mm.
guys haven't just tried planting a garden and raising chickens. You've also gone to your own business that you own.
Mhm.
So that's a whole nother shift.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I guess it's somewhat enabled by the other decisions you've made too.
Right.
How does that all work together?
Well, I mean, man, I feel like we could, like you said, I felt the same, by the way, about that conversation we had at the expo where we could have just sat there and their time didn't exist. We could have just gone on and on. But so yeah, you definitely will have to keep me on the rails here because I want to answer your question. She's probably better for that. I'm better for rambling. So,
You'll see me
you
wanting to
know,
ask you questions, going,
yeah. Yeah. Gosh, where do I begin there? I mean, to answer your question, I think you realize that these things cannot be compartmentalized like we've tried to do. I mean, it's all tied together. And so, of course, one decision affects the other. And we can think and we can try to approach it that way where it's like, I'm going to have this lifestyle, but I'm going to change jobs or, change careers. I mean, it was a very drastic. Gosh, I could go into that kind of our background there and how the coffee thing even started because it was nowhere on our radar.
Mhm.
Um, but it's like you realize you're trying to sort of reform things and then you realize that it's all tied together and you kind of need to just like let's take a fresh look at this. And so it kind of became about that, like let's there's an analogy that was shared with me that didn't it took me a while to make sense of it, but it was an analogy where it makes you realize that no matter what, we have biases, we jump to conclusions, and we ought not do that. We all do it. So that was kind of what we had to do was we're problem solvers. Let's solve the problem. Let's not jump to a particular solution. So I don't know. I'm going to let you, because I'll just ramble and not answer the question. Do you
Well,
want to
I
talk
think
about how
the business never obviously would have started had we not homeschooled first and
Mhm.
then made the shift to, homesteading and moved out. And so in a nutshell, how all that started was we were both 20 years in sort of corporate jobs. Greg was in accounting and finance and never loved it, but it paid the bills. And I worked for an insurance company. I was always able to work at home, but it was still tied to the computer. So after we moved to the farm and began homeschooling, we started to look at opportunity or ways that we could get me out of that job.
I will just kind of interject. I think the physical move to the country is what it took for
Yeah.
us. And sometimes I feel, I beat myself up because I'm like, why did it take that? Like, I know a lot of people who have, have faith and they're strong people, and they're able to do it in the midst of this worldliness. And but I think it took that physical move for us to
Mhm.
kind of see, get outside of that, and you could see it more. You can't, it's so hard to be objective about your own situation, but you get out and you kind of start noticing things that when you're in it, you don't notice it. But that's what it took for us. So I just
Mhm.
wanted to add that I think it was that physical move that started us on this path to
Yeah.
other things.
Yeah. So we decided to look for ways to shift for me to get out of the corporate world, be able to focus more on the kids and homeschooling. And I started just for fun, ordered like a
Starter
starter
kit.
kit to roast coffee, just for fun. Really didn't even think much of it. And
It's like
Which
a
one was it?
little stovetop popcorn popper. Sweet Maria's has a little. You
starter
probably
kit.
know
I
it.
got my
It seems like everyone
I
in
bought
coffee
the same
roasting.
one.
Yeah.
5 pounds of green beans and your little
Oh,
whirly pop, and I did that
Yep.
just for us and friends, and
eight ounces at a time.
yeah, painfully slow, but good and enough to be like, oh, this is something, and friends and family to say, hey, I would buy this, and then I don't even
You were
remember.
saying we were making plans,
Yeah,
kind of
so
to
we were making the plans to get me out, and so when I started to enjoy that, and then we had friends saying they would buy that, we thought, well, maybe we could kind of do something with that on the side, and planned for me to quit my job of 20 years and begin that shift into, and that's a whole other topic, just our feelings on both parents being
Yeah.
pushed to work out of the house, and the whole, sort of tearing down of the family
Mhm.
and time. And
Do you think like I'm getting more and more to believe that there is a sort of slavishness to it?
Yeah.
Like I when I would when I would hear people say wage slave before,
mm-hmm,
they were referring to, well, they were Marxists probably when they said it. Okay, so they were like super left. But the thing about Marxism, actually, the thing about Marx and Engels' Communist Manifesto was like the first half of it, you're like, oh wow, yeah, they're putting their finger on some stuff, and then
Yeah.
the second half, you're like,
Yeah.
Um, but the whole concept that you become commoditized and you sell yourself to an entity that essentially agrees to keep you alive.
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
But then when they're done with you, they're done with you.
Yeah.
So
right,
they don't have you have the freedom to leave, you have the freedom to compete for a better plantation,
Right.
mm-hmm,
but you still they don't have this even the responsibilities that a slave owner would have to you to some extent.
mm-hmm,
Like
mm-hmm,
you are just a commodity.
right,
Right.
So you're taking care of yourself, and that's good. I say it is a step above slave. I mean, we're not living in
right,
that bad of a world, right? It's not
Right.
it's
right,
not like it's not like we're suffering terribly. It's that we're seeing an emptiness in it and having a problem with it, and it's hard to put your finger on it.
right,
Yes.
But like
Yeah.
we are building some system, we're working for a system that we don't own,
right,
or we're
Yeah.
working for sort of conglomerations that we don't own, or even a person who doesn't have to own us
mm-hmm,
because
right,
they can just kick us to the curb.
right,
Right.
And so that move to, from, mom is pulled over here to this work and dad is pulled over
mm-hmm,
here to this work and the kids are pulled to this
right,
school or this school and this school, because if you got three kids, they're likely in three different schools,
right,
Yeah.
even, if you're a local public school because
mm-hmm,
of the
and
age
then add
changes.
sports onto that,
Oh, we can get
Yeah.
into that. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's
I
all
mean,
disintegrating the family, and
yeah,
it's building up something for someone else
right,
or
yeah.
something else.
exactly.
It's not
And it's
it's not
hard
for
to see
you.
that until you get out of it. For us, it was.
Well, and I would say that even 5 years into it, it's still, I wrestle with it probably more than Laura. And it's not, I'm not saying it hasn't been hard for her, but for me, I've struggled more with questioning some of these decisions. And I would say, for lack of a better term, sort of the psychology of making a change like this. Because, and it's not that, I don't know. I guess because there is the option now that it would be so easy to go back to that, to the convenience, to the comfort, all of those things. And don't get me wrong, we have a very blessed life, but it would be so easy to go back to that. And we have that choice. Whereas, you know, let's say 150 years ago, I mean, did people have a choice? Like that was just life,
Mhm.
and so in ways I would say it's harder because you do have that option, the siren
That's
song
what
of
I
the
was gonna
city,
say, yeah.
as they say. And but really deep down, I don't think we do have a choice. I mean,
Mm-mm.
I'm saying that I have to remind myself all the time that that is not a choice.
Mhm.
And I think you have to approach it that way, because if you think that it is a choice, you'll go back to that.
And going back to that, one of the things I'm trying to do, and I found out in the last couple of days there may be a book that's going to get me a lot closer to it. Because you and I have talked about this, and you've read what I've written about it, and it's not simply being agrarian. Like that's not the solution by itself. It could be a solution, but theoretically, I would like to think that you could make the philosophical shift within even living in the city. I
Yeah.
would say it's easier to make the philosophical shift or put it into practice being
Right.
actually urban, not suburban, because I think actually suburban is the least desirable situation at all.
No,
Yeah.
I think to your point, just really quick, I think you're exactly right, because here is the, I guess, fallacy of thinking that it's just going to be this scene change to a country lifestyle and all that. I thought that when we made this move, I had read some books, and one of them being Joel Salatin's "You Can Farm," and I had it in my head as maybe a potential goal to go into full scale farming.
Yeah.
Not conventional, but trying to do things better. But I realized that is, I think, and I'm not saying what Joel is amazing, and I think he's able to do it at a larger scale, but I actually don't think that's the solution. I think it's more about, I'm not saying, we still rely on each other, but I mean, I guess what I'm saying, it was more of that homestead. I realized we're more homesteaders than we were farmers or ranchers or whatever you want to say. I guess to your point, I think it is more of that mindset, that philosophy of being co-creators. I mean, I don't think that's an offensive thing to say. I mean, I think we are. I think that's what we're called to be. To your point, things that you talk about has really hit home with me, about work, not trying to get through it or anything like that, but actually enjoying it. And I think that's spot on.
Yeah. And as long as you don't mean co-creator in the open theist heretical sense, then we're good.
No, I guess
But
I'm
yeah,
saying that I think that
there's a
we're
subsidiary
given.
creation that we get.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think that's, I mean, maybe I shouldn't use that term, but I guess I'm just saying that I think
There's not a
that,
better one. That's the problem.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have those things in all of us that's maybe some buried deeper than others, um, where it's that entrepreneur spirit. I mean, where do we think that is? I'm sorry, as a believer, I know what it is. I know where it comes from. So that's all I mean when I say co-creator. I think that that's something that we all have. I used to tell myself, I never saw myself as an entrepreneur type. I didn't think I had I'm not a risk taker. I don't really I like to be creative, but I don't consider myself creative enough. But I think with enough hard work, if you want to do it, and I don't mean this to sound like, some motivational speech, like cliche thing, but if you want to do it, then I think it can be done if you work hard enough. And so I guess I just wanted to kind of backpedal a little there and explain what I mean by that.
Well, I think what you hit on, and maybe this is why, your response to, reading what I wrote, you were like, okay, yeah, I get it. I resonate with that. I mean, what was your previous profession generally?
Corporate finance and accounting. I stared at spreadsheets all day, and
yeah, but you could, if you wanted to, like within the next 30 days, you could be making six figures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could probably be over 150 or 200, not very long after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would be quote unquote less stressful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But once you're there again, you would have the same desires that were being unfulfilled
Right.
that you had before.
Right.
the same sort of problems. And that's the situation I'm in too. I mean, frankly, we've got, depending on how you count them, something like 4 businesses. But when I was only doing one thing and it was employment, I was making really good money per hour.
Yeah.
So there is that fear of missing out, that, like you said, these are decisions that we have to make that people, unless they were, I mean, very few people had to make 150 years ago.
Right.
And that very few people really had to make before, say, 1950.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like at this point it would be good to kind of finish how things played out with, I mean, that part was really, because it was a bit of a forced thing for us. I mean, you can look at it that way, but as it turns out, it's a blessing. But do you want to finish kind of how it played out?
So the plan was I would start to do a little, maybe we go to a little farmer's market up the road, do a little side business of coffee, and I would then quit my job, and that would supplement the income. And he had spent, so this was during COVID. So he was spending, I already worked at home. So he got to see what our day was like normally. And then he got to work at home for a few months during COVID. And, he's like, wow, this is great. I wish I was here all the time. And so when we planned for
it's great, but it wasn't, right? Because you're still kind of tied to,
yeah. But, he saw a different side of things. And so we planned for my last day. I turned in my 2 weeks. Do you want to tell
Well, I was going to say I was also going to do some mowing on the side.
Yeah.
So throw that in there. We're trying to adjust to one income, which looking at it now, it's like it's just funny what we think we need, right?
Yeah.
And like, so looking at that one income, I'm like, gosh, how are we going to do this? And now looking back, I'm like, man, if we only had that one income,
right.
I mean, I guess, just you can do like the things we think we need, like I said. But anyway, I was going to do some mowing on the side. I worked half day Fridays. So I was going to kind of supplement that one income. She was going to maybe try something with coffee. I was going to do some mowing on Friday
so
afternoons.
The week prior to my last day, we actually went and bought a trailer. We were like planning on this mowing thing happening. And then it was a Tuesday because the kids were at a nature school co-op thing. And it was my last day. I planned to go pick them up, but I was going to go buy ice cream first because we were going to celebrate. It was my last day. This was a new thing. And so
we were nervous about it, but we were excited too.
I don't know. Do I tell what you had done the week prior? Or do I tell
you definitely don't leave that out.
So the week prior though, he, he was jealous.
I was definitely a little envious. She's getting out, and
I'm getting out, and he was still in. So he wrote this
Well, I said, what if we just did something different? Like I was.
Yeah. What if I quit on your last day?
Like let's just I don't know. Well, it was very irresponsible thinking, but anyway.
I was like, that would be crazy. How could we ever do that? That you can't do that. But, and I don't know if I knew this or didn't know, but he actually wrote a resignation letter dated the same day as my last day. He didn't do anything with it, but he had written it. Just, I don't know.
And I remember for some reason it stuck out. It was a Tuesday, and it was going to be your last day. And I had no intentions of turning the letter in.
But
and this is the part that people may not believe. Okay. But I'll let you kind of finish. But I had written that I had no intentions of turning it in, and I didn't turn it in.
No.
So you go ahead.
So I'm done working, went to the store to get the ice cream, and my hand, I remember it clear as day. My hand's in the freezer, grabbing the ice cream. And I guess my phone was in this hand, and literally hand on the ice cream, phone in this hand. And he texts me, and I look down, and it, says, I just got laid off. I was like, oh. So I put the ice cream back. Some people laugh and say, that's what I did. Some people said I would have grabbed all the ice cream.
Some people said, well, I would have just grabbed the whole thing.
Which, that could have worked too. But I put the ice cream back. I'm like, well, we can't.
Or eating it right there in the store.
Yeah, right.
I'm just going to sit down with a spoon. So I put the ice cream back. I don't even know. I think I was in shock for a minute. I went to the car. I had to get the kids in 30 minutes. So you have to sort of, hold it together a bit and process. And it was 2:00. So he's packing up on his way home. And I'm like, oh boy, what's this going to be like when he gets home? Now
Because
what?
I will say the old Greg would have gone spiraled. I mean,
Yeah, panic.
like, and I'm not, don't get me wrong. There is sanctification for sure still. But I'm just saying that, it was initially shock, but
But
then
the
I think
panic wasn't there. It was like, okay, God.
there was a peace that came over, and it was like, and I think it was just realizing that this was like, how could you deny that was, I mean, I'm sorry folks, that's not a coincidence.
No. Yeah. So we
you
went
know
in one day from, 2 full-time corporate jobs to 0 income. And I don't even know, was it the next day or the next? We went and bought the mower and got him the mower. He made up old school
I
flyers
went
and
old
started
school,
passing
door to
out
door,
flyers.
just
Yep.
passing out.
To mow
Yeah,
yards.
just
And then we um, decided to ditch the whirly pop and up the roaster game a bit because that was going to need to sell more coffee than
8 ounces at a time was not going to
Yeah.
cut it.
So we got the bigger roaster, and it was that was February, and the local farmers market in our town started in April. So we just hit the door running with
So
that.
I want to throw this in. I think I want to be honest here. We had savings as a cushion, if you want to look at it that way. I also had gotten a severance because I didn't turn that letter in. I mean, and I'm not saying it was enough to help for a while. But again, which I think is divine that it happened that way, that it gave us that little cushion or helped us kind of, just get through for a while.
Egypt a little bit more.
Yeah.
So,
so he mowed yards that
and
summer.
we relied very heavily on our savings, but we kind of looked at it as, and we can get into that too. Just this illusion of security is the way I look at it. And I'm not saying don't be responsible with your money, but I'm just saying that it's an illusion. And we just looked at it as seed money for these new ventures.
Yep.
But really having no idea where it was going to lead, is the truth. I mean, it was very, very humble beginnings with taking a few bags of coffee up to our local little small town of 1,500 farmers market.
And that's all we did. That's all I did the first, I guess it was April through October of that year. The kids and I would go to our local market, and then we would hit on Friday. It was on Wednesday. We'd hit two different Friday markets, and that's what we did. And then he mowed yards, and then we got to the end of the market season, and we were like, oh gosh, how do we sell coffee in the winter? And so we decided we better get a website and be able to start, getting coffee out after that. So that's when we got the website up, and the growth of the coffee has just been God's breadcrumbs.
Hard to explain, very organic, very word of mouth.
Are you doing a coffee shop too, or is it just roasting?
No,
just roasting.
No storefront.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got too many taglines as it is, but if we had another tagline, it would be for the home barista. And there's reasons for that, right? There's all kinds of tempting opportunities, but of course, I think we all know that there are the right opportunities and the wrong ones. But I think and people have, of course, full of ideas. Why don't you do a coffee trailer? Why don't you do a coffee shop? When's the coffee shop can open? And all this stuff. And it is tempting for sure. Doing more events or doing this, doing that. And it's like, I guess we always wanted to keep an eye on what got us to this point and why we even came out here to begin with. And as tempting as it is, that takes you away. And we want to be home. We have animals to take care of. We homeschool. We enjoy our place. And all of that takes you away. And thinking about, I mean, we get up early as it is, but just thinking about having to get up and open up at 6 a.m. or whatever, a coffee trailer or shop or something like that. And And
We try to stick with what got us here.
Yeah,
and
that's the point. Is we do. I'd say roasting in an online store. We do have a pretty good local base, and they'll come pick up on farm. We offer free local pickup, and we have some people that drive a little ways. I think they just like to come out. And
most people, if they come, it's a visit. It's a
Mhm.
fellowship time. They bring their kids and walk around the farm and look at the animals, and so it's
Nice. Do you
it's
have a
more
milk
than
cow?
just.
Do we have a milk cow? No,
Almost.
that is a goal.
Yeah.
We have
a cow that can be milked when she has a calf in the spring.
Yeah, we
so
have
put it that way.
Dexters,
Oh,
and
okay.
they're dual
Yeah.
purpose,
Yeah.
and so
Nice.
that's a goal. It's been a goal for a while, and we're finally kind of
Just
maybe
about
taking some
there.
steps.
And then we also have
So you'll
sheep that our daughter wants
Yeah.
to milk as well. So that's
They're not
on
a
the list.
dairy breed, but they can be, they can be milked. And
Yep. So that's probably the biggest thing that we still pay for at the store is dairy. And so
Dairy,
that's the I think next year's goal will be to.
at the store or from another
Yeah,
producer,
yeah.
I mean, just we're not producing it ourselves, but
So we've got as I record this, the episode with Sean and Beth Doherty is dropping in 3 to 4 days, whatever, Tuesday.
Okay. I want to hear that. Yeah.
And of course, their thing is their website's called onecowrevolution.com, I think.
Okay.
But that's kind of their big push right now.
Mm-hmm.
And their whole thing is you get a dairy cow and it completely changes everything.
Yeah.
Like it's the epicenter of the family farm because you can't drink it all.
Right.
You're either going to sell it,
Yep.
or you're gonna feed it to other things.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start looking for other things, because if you've got it, you're gonna need to feed it to something so it's not wasted.
Right.
So then you gotta have pigs. So you get pigs, and then you get and everything revolves around the cow. And of course, it's making all of this great manure that you can turn and compost and use on your gardens and whatnot. And so they base a lot of it around that. But the other thing about it is it's very grounding in terms of cows got to be milked.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can leave the calf with it, but it does add. It's almost like having the coffee trailer that you've got to go open at 6 a.m.
Well, and I was going to say that's been one of our biggest hesitations is just the intimidation factor of, we've got a lot going on as it is. And when I mentioned that it's a goal of ours to do dairy, it's always if you think you're tied to the place now, you'll be really, but here's the thing. It's like,
we love being tied to the place.
I want to really guard against that and caution other people not to get turned off by that because it's kind of to the point of what you've been talking about. It's not, I loved your episode discussing, it's about the doing, not the done. And I think that ties right in with that. And the reality is we're kind of tied to the place a couple times a day as it is. And I think seems to be, for most people I talk to, sort of that natural rhythm, if you will, is kind of, you've got your chores in the morning and then you're sort of, chores in the evening. And you do have to make some adjustments. I don't use the word sacrifice because I don't view it that way. It is a trade-off, but it's a trade I would make.
Yeah. I mean, enjoy the animals.
Yeah. We are tied to the place. We get to get out and do some things in the middle of the day. And that's when if we fellowship with other homesteaders, it seems like middle of the day works well. Mm-hmm. But it's just kind of back to my earlier point. This analogy is about you need a hole, right? And it's very natural, I guess, to jump to the solution is a drill bit. And again, I don't know if this will make sense, but we can't do that because we're thinking drill bit. We need to be thinking hole. So it may not be that may be the solution. That may be the best solution, but it may not be. And instead of kind of thinking within these constructs that we all have inherited or whatever, to kind of, I don't know, that can sound a little woo woo, but I'm just saying that's I think it's something that we all have to be aware of.
Yeah,
if that
because
makes
we're always looking for the solutions we're used to that are
Yeah.
yeah,
conventional,
yeah,
and if we're not careful, we can just completely overlook some things that might
Right.
be obvious to someone who isn't coming to it with the preconceptions.
yeah.
Which is
Something,
something I love about homeschooling is
Well,
you can teach the kids to then think like that, critically, think outside the
yeah,
box, and problem solve.
and
well,
and
and yeah, go ahead.
speaking of the kids, the one of the who was I just talking to? Somebody was just talking. She just made the or I was listening to made the point that if you are trying to integrate the kids into stuff, it's
Mhm.
very hard to integrate children into corporate finance at a Fortune
Right,
500
Yeah,
company.
right,
yeah,
right. Yeah,
um, they're not welcomed in the boardroom, and they're
yeah,
not really welcomed at the office and all that.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but and then they're also not welcomed at the factory down the road
Right,
either.
right, right.
So,
But they can come to the
in the
farmer's
words of
market.
yeah, they're welcome there.
Yeah,
And in the words of Ron Swanson, child labor laws are destroying the country. Uh,
right. That's exactly right. Yep.
I mean, you're telling you can't work until you're like 16 or
yeah.
Right.
18, and
Oh, I
then
know.
wonder,
Right.
why they're
Well,
not very good
Why
workers
nobody
at
knows.
I
18.
Yeah.
mean, I have to say, I feel like that's kind of not as innocent as you might think. You might think you're protecting the child. I don't know if that's what they're wanting with that. I feel like that's maybe a little bit by design.
Mhm.
And I won't get on my soapbox there, but I think that to your point, it's rethinking. What is quality time? I think I see something that happens a lot, and I see it in myself where it used to be, of course, I was gone all day long, kids are gone. And then when we have that time together, I feel like there's this kind of guilt thing that happens, and I've got to somehow make up for that lost time, or we've got to do these things. And it's good to have those things where you can connect. But I feel like that that can look different than what we think. And I still wrestle with that sometimes, where you think quality time has to be this doing a certain thing, gazing into each other's eyes type of a thing. But it's that again, I feel like there's guilt behind that, and somehow like
Preferably over some very high quality Italian ice cream.
Yes, right.
yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it can be. I mean, we spend so much time just conversations in real time. I think that's one of the earliest things that we started recognizing with homeschool is we got to have some really good conversations about big things in real time, not dealing with it later when, maybe hours after it happened at school and so said this, and then you're dealing with when the damage is maybe already done. So I think, and then life skills, the kids, man, and this, when they get older, they can do more, of course.
But
And
they
it's
could run
like,
the farm without
they could
us. Yeah.
absolutely do it. And they do so many things where they're getting dinner started or breakfast started or doing this or that, saving us. And they're, 15 and 13 now, they can do that.
But they've been able to do
But
that for
that
a
can
while.
start early. And,
Is it just 2
and,
kids?
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
Okay.
2 kids,
Yep.
15-year-old daughter, 13-year-old son. And
You're missing out on so much free labor, man.
I
yeah,
know.
God.
I know.
and gosh, don't you kind of wonder, like, I love hearing about people having big families again,
Yeah.
because again, that was
Mhm.
the kind of the advice or the messaging, and gosh, I won't get into all of that, but I mean, you buy into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they're amazing, and they do so much, and they're learning, and I love that. I mean, I think our job is, I think, the conventional or mainstream, like, we almost want to keep them like dependent on us, because then of course they're going to be dependent on a system. But if we're doing our jobs, we're
Mm.
almost making ourselves not obsolete in a relationship way,
Right.
but I want them to be able to
Do
things, and not to be some, worthless jerk like I was. That's the term I use. I kind of joke about that. And
he wasn't, but
no,
yeah.
but yeah, no, really. So yeah, I mean, it's the life skills. It's all of this stuff that they're going to be doing. And it's like, I was very prepared. Well, relatively speaking, prepared for career, not very prepared for life is the truth.
So some of this we're learning right along with them.
Yeah. And they get to see, and at first it was kind of like this, trying to maybe keep this from them. But I thought, why are we keeping this from them? I want them to understand it makes it more applicable when they can see us struggling through things that for them in ways they're beyond us. And these are natural things that have just been, and it's because it is natural and they're being exposed to it at a younger age. I'm an old dog learning new tricks,
That is exactly the thing that I was about to try to lead you to, but you just went there. It's like, I want my kids to not have fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Because they
tough.
were never taught to have an appetite for this thing that they shouldn't have an appetite for.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly.
I want their desires to be right from the get-go.
Yeah.
I still wrestle with that. And yeah, that is the FOMO, fear of missing out. That is something that I feel like is, maybe I'll always battle that. But,
there's a certain affluence that is within reach for a lot of people. But it's an empty affluence, I mean, we've been there. Yeah. We've been dissatisfied with it. We've walked away from it. And yet we're tempted to go back to it. Why?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. The thoughts of man's heart are evil. Yeah. Only evil always.
It goes back to the first stories of the word, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Well, hey, I am so blessed to have gotten to hear this story a second time with a little more detail, maybe. And maybe with Laura filling in some more of the blanks. It's been very great. If you had, let's see here, I never drilled down or made you drill down into the particulars with the kids. It's both boys. Is that
no? A 15-year-old daughter, a 13-year-old son.
Okay, daughter and son. Yep. As far as, I mean, the agrarian thing, it kind of, to go back to what we said earlier, like kids are not welcome at the factory or the corporate place, but so it's a very, if you're trying to get kids involved, like anything agrarian is like, it's just the obvious answer, right?
Right.
So I'd imagine like you've already said, they can run it without you. They know what they're doing. So they're integrated, fully integrated. The family integrated work is happening with the agricultural pursuits. Have you been able to integrate that into the coffee roasting and marketing side of things, or has that been a challenge? Is it still a challenge?
A little bit. I mean, they're getting to that age. There are things that, whether it's, farmers market has been great for them. So
I would say, to a lesser extent, but definitely.
Yeah. So like the farmers market, we joke for all the events that we do, he's the roadie. So he's got the list of all the things we need to get there and gets us packed. And then we just show up. So they can take his list now and, make sure we've got all the things packed. They know what we need to do to get there. You'd be
surprised. It takes a lot of stuff, even for a little setup at a market. There's quite a few items on there.
Yeah. So they know, they could run the whole farmer's market without me there. They know how to, so we get there, huge. We unload, they set it up. And now because we've been 4 years at the farmer's market. And
we're down to just the one, by the way, and I won't belabor that, but we have the one, our small town here that we love and consider our adoptive small town, but
for the last 2 years, they now have a job there. They are the sort of market assistants, and so at the end of the market, they pass out the little slips that go to all the vendors that track their sales and all that. And then when at the end of the market, the vendors turn those in. Well, the kids have a sheet that they keep track of, who turned in their slip. If you get little market tokens, they're counting back money and making change for people. And so they're,
setting out signs and
they set up the market. They put out all the market sign, not just for me, but for the market as a whole. So, that's given them a great opportunity, and they ring up the sales and they give the change. I just talk to people. They do the work there. And then at home,
Hannah does some creative stuff with
some of the website posts that we make on Instagram. She likes to be creative, and she'll help with some of that. And
a lot of it, I feel like, is they are there when Laura and I are having these conversations about the business and making decisions. And that's something that has been a big adjustment for us. And it's, wearing all of the hats and just the number of daily decisions that go into operating a business. And they get to be there and hear those conversations take place, and those decisions
pricing,
being made.
The emails,
pricing
that we, customers that we deal with. If there's
they're learning so much about different types of people, because, dealing with customers, and we love our customers, but you're dealing with different personalities, and you have to manage those situations sometimes. So
they learn that. And then there's stuff, I'm the only roaster.
There's no paid, employees. We're just not there.
But they help with, boxing stuff up, or, any of the packaging type stuff.
Are you using an air roaster or a drum roaster?
Yeah. Air roaster.
Yeah. It's been great.
Yeah.
We've now gone to a bigger model since
since
in
the
last
first
year.
one. Yeah. I guess it's been about a year when we moved to, so we're at our first homestead for 4 years. And then last summer, we really just wanted more land, and we needed more room for coffee.
But it was a long shot, honestly. That's another God story for sure, how this all happened. But
But we moved just, 7 minutes from our other house, but a smaller house, bigger shop, bigger land, which was perfect. It was our fourth straight house downsize, which is a whole other topic, just on, stuff.
It's been great. The downsizing,
purging of stuff. So, but anyway, when we moved here, it was time for a bigger roaster. So I have
roasters. Did you switch from to?
So I was on I think we had this conversation. Do you roast 3E? On a 3E?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have the 3E.
A 6M. I have a 6M.
Oh, okay. So I have the XL, the Artisan XL.
That's what we're on now. So
I was on the 3E. So I can do
3 to an XL. Okay. Big upgrade, right?
Yeah.
Does it really automate it well?
It is the same as the. I don't have any automation software on it, so I just.
Oh, okay. I thought that was standard. So that's a different thing.
No, it's an option, and I that's why I like it, is because I don't want to. I don't want to automate it.
I'll share this. So
it's also why the kids don't do it.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. So that will be a transition point at some point. But I love just the manual process.
Yeah. So Laura loves to cook, and I've always said, she cooks with love. And I think that's kind of a secret ingredient, if you will. And I think she roasts with love, and she didn't want anything that was just like kind of set it and forget it. That's what she liked about this particular roaster, that it's a sensory thing. There's very much, I think, an art. People try to make it a science or say it's a science. I think there's an art to it.
Do you have the automation software? No. So you know what we're talking about.
Too much money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
it has the option on there, but
you can smell when it's time.
Yeah, you can smell.
Yeah.
And
you're looking at it, and then your nose tells you, take it off.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Amen.
No, I love that roaster, and that company too. We've had, a couple things that we've had issues with, and literally we call and Ken is walking us through the fix. I mean, they're really amazing.
Yeah, the guy,
the owner.
Yeah, it's great.
It's great. You call in, and like the second
Coffee
person you're
crafters.
talking to is
Yeah.
the inventor of the
Yeah.
machine. So that's
Yeah. I don't think the air roaster has just been great, and so many customers that because it's low acidic, the beans that come off of there are just so clean, and we've had people that
And this was unsolicited, by the way. We, not to say it wasn't part of the decision, but it was something that was just a blessing that we didn't really even know. Like unsolicited, people would start coming to us and saying, I had to stop drinking coffee because just stomach, issues. Or I get jittery, or I just don't, we have people, we call them our non-coffee coffee drinkers, that claim they don't like coffee. It's because they're used to this over roasted, burnt,
mhm.
the
Yeah.
bitterness of coffee. But even our dark roasts are smooth and it's low acidic. We've had people that say, I used to have to take an acid pill. I don't have to take that anymore. I mean, just testimony after testimony that, again, they're coming to us saying these things.
Yeah. Is
So.
is it low acidity because of the beans you're using?
I believe it's the roaster. I mean,
we do use high quality beans, but I think so most, I think a lot of it is the micro batch versus, huge batches. Obviously there's less control over like a huge batch. But a lot of those, I think it's a design thing where even though those beans are turning constantly, like in those big drums, or you still, I think there's just no avoiding that scorching that happens kind of on the bottom. And then my understanding is that most people then have to over roast the batch to kind of even, make it even, make it look even.
Yeah.
And then that's where the burnt, bitter, higher acidity
Right.
comes in. So this, it's lofted on a bed of air and just an even roast, and you don't have that scorching. And so
I
How long
just
have
did
you
10
had
pounds of
yours?
Ethiopian light roasted for somebody in Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was like kept for me.
Yeah.
Because it was Ethiopian, they were a little bit pricey beans, and
Yes.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to overdo it. And
Right.
actually, my bean temp probe
Mhm.
broke,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so I don't have the temp right now to go off of.
So you're
And
really sensory.
yeah, it was very sensory indeed. So anyway, yeah. So
That's cool.
it sounds like from what you guys told me about the kids' involvement and everything, that when we start planning the stay at work home fest convention, whatever you call that, then we're going to have to do it at your farm, and your kids are going to have to do all the planning.
Absolutely.
They would love it, actually.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Sounds like they're well prepared to do that.
They're go-getters.
They
for
are.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that's what kids really like, that feeling a part of things. They do. I mean, they want that.
Well, he always says, we all wanted the lemonade stand when we were kids. We all had that in us when we were little. Where does that go?
Yeah, those dreams get squashed early.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, if you want to look at it that way, that's sort of what we've done. Is this started off as a lemonade stand, and we're trying to at least, we're not looking to dethrone, I won't name names, but big name roasters. I think there's enough room for everyone. I kind of look at it that way. That's my thing. And
well, it's the same
just
with
make them
farming.
irrelevant. That's all.
What's that?
So just to make them irrelevant. That's all.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
yeah.
our customers that their customers are not our customers. I think people, but anyway, I forget where I was going with that. I guess that it's about the kids. They want to feel, I think that it's sad to me when you see that, that happen, where I think that's natural, and we want to keep that alive in them, that they don't have to be coffee roasters or carry this on. I'd love to see this become a multi-generational. I think that was my point, was it needed to support itself first. And then I really wanted it to support the family. And then actually, I can't believe this. I really, this kind of hurts my pride a little bit with the farm, but it has to even support the farm. I would love to say the farm supports itself, but let's be honest. So it even has to support that. I would love it to see it support multiple families. So when our kids, get a little older and want to have families and get married and, that they could be a part of it, could be a multi-generational business. I would love to see that. I mean,
Well, the thing
Lord
you say
willing.
about the farm, like needing to be supported by the coffee roasting and everything, like, but if you quadrupled the price of food, right? So if you're not using supermarket prices to compare what you're getting out of your farm, which are subsidized and problematic in a lot of ways, then maybe the farm wouldn't, the coffee wouldn't be subsidizing the farm at that point, right? If you like quintuple the value of what you're pulling off the farm, all of a sudden the farm's not in as bad of a situation, from a spreadsheet point of view. But
Yeah, no, I've had to stop. That's especially with my background. I've had to stop looking at things that way. And honestly, I think that because that's been, I'm not saying don't have a business plan, don't worry about an ROI. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, I'll say this: you definitely, what we've done is not been textbook, and I think ROI, like, it's not maybe in US dollars, but maybe to your point, that return has been unquantifiable. It's been amazing, and I think we just have to look at it different. That's the hard thing, though, is I'm analytical because of my background, and of course you're told, what was your business plan, and what's your this, and what's the ROI on this investment, and I'm like, that's out the window. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know, that maybe sounds foolish or whatever, but I think at a certain point, it becomes about trust, and it becomes about not forcing things, and it becomes about, being flexible. And again, I can't tell you how we've gotten here. This would be a 6-hour long episode if we tried to tell you how we, gotten to this point. And of course, it's still tight. It's still a challenge. We're still figuring it out. Someone gave us, if I can use another analogy, I love analogies, but they said it's kind of like you jumped off the cliff, or some might say, kind of nudged or pushed off the cliff, and you're trying to build the plane in midair. And I think about that, and I think, well, I can definitely tell you that is what it feels like sometimes.
I think just last week you said, is the plane going up or down right now?
Does it look like a plane? Is it, like, or is it, not to quote a Disney movie, but like Woody says to Buzz, you're just falling with style. Are we falling with style? I don't know.
Some days, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, where are we in that? And I guess I'm just saying, like, you do really have to kind of take it a day at a time, not get too far ahead of things.
But I think that's what keeps us close to our faith. I mean,
well, absolutely.
Never have, as a family, also, we haven't mentioned in these 4 years, have we been closer to God, more in our Bibles, more, it's just brought us deeper into his word and closer to him as a family.
Our security in him, not that, like I said earlier, that illusion of security.
Yeah.
If kids interrupt, I try to let them interrupt.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna. Yeah, our kids have been in and out. So,
well, where can folks get a hold of you? Where can folks find you if they want to get some amazing coffee?
Go ahead.
So, Instagram and Facebook, Shepherd's Crook Coffee. And then our website to order, we do monthly subscriptions, biweekly subscriptions. We have bulk options. So that's www.shepherdscrookcoffee.com. And then, like I said, Instagram and Facebook as well.
And yeah, we do ship all over. I mean, like I said, it's been amazing how it's been really happened mostly word of mouth, but we've delivered to all 50 states and even beyond. And so, yeah, we ship, and currently we do flat rate shipping, and that's, I guess that's about it.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll put your links in the show notes. And I think a lot of people who are on this path already will resonate with this, and hopefully somebody that's thinking about it will be empowered to start making the jump. So
I was going to say, we also have a homestead page. So if anyone else wants to just follow that for, I don't know, we try to put it out there for education, inspiration. If anybody needs help,
that's really all it is. I think a big passion of ours is, I mean, we feel so blessed, and we just want to kind of share that with others. And so our passion is kind of awareness and education. And so we use the pages to share, kind of to hopefully plant a seed. And we're always happy to help and help other people get started. So
I'm going to give the page for that. That's True North Farm. It's TRUNORTH.
Yeah, no E, True North, because you had to be creative, I guess. But
True North Farm.
Had to be edgy, drop the E. So
right,
I don't know. Again, a questionable decision, but
True North Farm. Facebook and Instagram on there.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, it's not like there's not a lot of like how to, and we've talked about maybe doing that, but it does seem like a pretty saturated. There's so many out there doing it so well. Just with how-to videos and that type of thing. I would say what we try to do is just inspire people, hopefully, and get over that. You want to think things through, but at the same time, it's that whole analysis paralysis thing that we can do. Sometimes we have to literally just
get the chickens.
Just do it. Just
get the chickens. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. And again, probably against a lot of conventional thought there. I mean, it's sometimes you just have to jump off, like they said, jump off that cliff,
throw your hat over the fence.
Yeah.
Then you'll figure out a way to get over the fence.
That's right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much. It's been a great pleasure.
Oh, same here. It's been a blessing.
This episode of the Stay at Work Home is brought to you by HeartlandBunkies.com. Come check out our full line of small cabin kits that can be easily assembled by a few friends or family in just a weekend for extra space for meaningful connection, or extra income, or a home office, a homeschool room, or whatever. If you've enjoyed what you've just heard, please subscribe and share. Also, check out our website and blog, stayatworkhome.com.